Hi, I'm Dominic, and this is the first video in a series of 4. Check out the introduction to know what they're all about. And now, welcome to the first major Rauhnacht, the longest night of the year, at least on the northern hemisphere. I want to tell you a little more about the Rauhnächte in general, mainly where I think they came from because— Whoa! A buffalo. You know, these gigantic beasts with at least 60 wings. This is actually a Doctor Who reference, but it also serves to explain my point. You probably know buffalo wings as a name for what is basically chicken wings. At least I hope it's chicken. Imagine someone from the far future trying to reconstruct life on Earth today, based on what little information he has access to. He knows there were buffaloes roaming the prairie. He heard about this food item called buffalo wings, and he has some idea of how many more wings than buffaloes there were. So he comes to believe that buffaloes were these gigantic beasts with 60 wings each. What I'm trying to say is that it's easy to get folklore wrong, especially since you cannot easily distinguish between fact and fiction if the fact to begin with started out as fiction. Let me put it another way. This is not about demons and monsters actually existing, but about people believing in them. It's about the story more than it is about the actual thing. And while yes, I could serve you with stories of my own invention, and as you know that is something that I love to do, everything I'll tell you is based on research, which makes it, at the very least, someone else's invention. I should point out that the Rauhnächte are not actually practiced anymore. There are some traditions that still live on, but for fun and entertainment only. The majority of what is known today is word of mouth. Researchers talking to old people who remember what they were told when they were young. Stories. Like the one about this guy who stayed out late and ended up being picked up by the wild hunt, which I will tell you about in another video, and ended up somewhere in a field. A sober mind, pun intended, would argue that he got himself bloody drunk, fell over himself, and needed someone or something to blame for it. Or did he? I can also see kids or even adults playing pranks on gullible neighbors during those nights. For example, there are tales of creatures that haunt stables and braid manes and tails, which is a sign of evil, to be sure. The same creatures, called droods, are said to sit on a person's chest when they are in bed at night, preventing them from breathing. That, to us, sounds like a medical condition, which makes sense in a time with limited medical knowledge and care among the general population, using the supernatural to explain things. But if you add to that the fact that these droods were said to be women, witches basically, who could change their appearance, you quickly end up not with demons, but with deformation. Because ever since my husband hired that young harlot of a farm girl, I have had the drood on my chest almost every morning. Maybe you can see where this is going. And that is the thing about folklore. On the one hand, it's an explanation for things beyond our understanding, turning a winter storm into the wild hunt, or thunder into gods arguing over dinner. On the other hand, it's an outlet for human fallacies and a justification for acting on them. So keep an open mind when learning about such things. These people had a good reason for what they believed and did, just like we think we do. And keep in mind that back in their day, news traveled rather slowly, These days, if I invent a story, I could, in theory, have 1,000 people read it by lunch and 1 million forget about it by nightfall. Back then, when someone had a story to tell, they could tell it to their neighbors at the local tavern or pub. Maybe someone would pass through and take the story with them, slightly altered by bad memory and their own ideas. Same with these tradition and tales. If you ask two farmers who lived a few days' rides apart about these tales and stories, you would probably get slightly different answers, getting more diverse with distance. But that does not make it any less folklore. One thing I have not mentioned yet is how some stories and ideas hail back to the days before Christianity came and took some of them over. For example, there is a theory that in order to prevent heathen practices on All Hallows Eve, the church declared that people should stay inside for fear of the spirits of the dead. Is that true? I don't know. It does make sense in a way, but so does the buffaloes. Just like the wild hunt being led by Wodan or Odin. But do not worry, the devil got his due too. There's one story that says that during the Rauhnächte, the devil stalks the woods to light a fire. He would, for whatever reason, let it burn down, and if you happened upon it, you could pick up an ember and carry it away. It would turn into gold. That is, unless you look back, because then you would see the devil, and he would see you, and you would soon die. You think it was a tealight holder I made? It may just be a story, but I will not look back. But then again, it probably can't hurt you inside the camera, right? Now we wait for it to turn into gold. So this is how it turned out, and well, the coal vanished, and I guess I made a tealight holder after all. But I think it's probably the safer option than running around with the devil's gold. I hope you enjoyed this first video in the Rauhnacht series, and please let me know in the comments what you think, because this is something I haven't done before in this way. As you probably noticed, I decided not to do audio commentary for the project, so I wouldn't take away from the narrative of the whole thing. I don't know whether that works, because, you know, I usually like to talk, so I might do a video about this one as an additional video sometime in the future, because right now I'm pressed to get the other videos finished. Talking a little more about this, mainly because this wasn't designed as a tealight holder, but as something else. I hope you'll tune in again in the next video when we'll talk about the wild hunt, and until then, remember to be inspired. Yeah, since this is a tealight holder, some traditions have to be observed.